Okay, without further ado, what I might do is share my screen and let's run through this concept of increasing your market penetration, right? So often, the big struggle in business is to actually figure out what to take to market and how to take it to market, but which is super important and something that we'll cover and touch on a little bit. What to do before you get to this stage, like what are the important steps to not skip. But today it's more about really focusing in on, okay, you're to market, you've started making sales, like how do you double down and actually grow exponentially and not lose kind of traction, because you can sometimes gain traction then lose it and then gain it again and then lose it again. And that's kind of to do with the fact that you figured out some of the system, but you haven't figured out the whole comprehensive system that you'll need to drive your product or service progressively into the market. Awesome stuff. Cool. So welcome aboard, and just a quick few set of notes just to provide some context on the conversation. I just thought I would explain to you who Business Station is and a little bit about myself. So Business Station is just a not-for-profit organization that receives federal funding to provide these presentations and also one-on-one sessions. We've actually got about 60 to 70 digital solutions advisors at the moment. You can book these guys. I'm one of them, as you can see. I'm in the park there with the other guys, with the other advisors. We've got advisors across WA, Queensland, and the Northern Territory. Predominantly in WA, it's Perth and the Southwest. Although we are trying to expand, it's just sometimes difficult to find regional advisors in like Kalgoorlie, for example. But yeah, so most of our offices are in WA, and during the program, we usually open an office in Brisbane as well. So we had one in Fortitude Valley up until recently. So if you're across that side of the country, then, well, at the moment, what you do is go to the Brisbane Business Hub and you'll see us there. We've got a couple of guys still operating out that side of in that particular office. So yeah, so my background is helping startups and innovative small businesses get really clear about their strategy. And so I'll be showing you a few of the tools that I use throughout the presentation. We won't be fixating too much on them. And I'll be sending you some of the tools potentially at the end, just like the business model canvas. So a lot of people haven't yet implemented their business model canvas, or even if they haven't fully optimized it. So I typically focus in on that, and I'll explain the relevance of the business model to market penetration specifically in this presentation. Yes, startup and small business strategy. So there's a series of activities I like to take founders through to make sure that they're as crystal clear as they possibly can be on their strategy moving forward. And so, yeah, the frameworks and the canvases we use to actually achieve that, and also build them up as an entrepreneur by introducing them to new concepts and new tools that will make their life and job a lot easier. So yeah, it's all part of my kind of approach to things. So today's topic. So we'll be talking about penetrating market and then maintaining your market penetration. So as I've discussed just in the preceding slides, it's difficult enough to get the product to market often and have a differentiated product in the market. So obviously early stage planning is all about, what is our unique value proposition and that kind of thing. So imagine that we've got to that stage, we've got a differentiated product, but then what? We've still got almost no market penetration. So one of the things that I do, so I do the strategy plus I help with execution. So once we've clarified exactly what we need to be doing, then often what I'll do is help facilitate that process by making introductions to those that I've identified as potential key partners and customer segments together with you. So often founders will come to me and they'll have a fair idea about what they're doing, but there's the possibility of getting even more specific progressively through use of a variety of tools, right? Yeah, so I'll take you through my own journey, kind of like a networking system I've created to expand into the WA, Queensland and Northern Territorian markets, if that is indeed a word, Northern Territorian. And yeah, sometimes I also have people kind of joining these events from other parts of the world, like South America and the US and Canada, and they seem to get quite a bit out of it as well. I get a lot of messages from those guys who are pretty keen on continuing on and coming to more events as well. So it's kind of interesting. So today, as per the invite, like the Eventbrite invite, what I'm really wanting to help founders of small businesses and innovative small businesses do is increase those numbers of bookings and inquiries about either yourself or your product or your service. Often it starts off, when you're making an introduction, you introduce someone to another person. I happen to be an advisor or a consultant, so me and my service are kind of the same thing. So that's typically where it starts. This idea that I've come up with quite recently of organizing cross-referral hackathons, like what that could possibly be, why it would possibly do it, and what kind of problems it solves. Because referrals don't always happen in a predictable way, but increasingly I'm finding ways of making it a lot more predictable. Yeah, today I'm currently kind of, my issue today is actually cabin fever, because I've been up since 7:30 in the morning and I've been on calls continuously since then. And then someone on one of those earlier calls has rebooked me since then to talk again. So I'm like, literally, lunch is cancelled now, which is a good problem to have, but still means that I've got cabin fever. So I'm gonna have to go outside and run around in a circle or something as a result. Actually, earlier on the call, there was another guy, I think his name was Nick, that we all met on this online networking group, and he also specializes, although he's had a bit of a focus from an earlier stage of his business building process on referral models, getting that right for your business. And so I can share with you some of the information and worksheets that he actually provided to the other members of the circle, the online circle this morning. Holding referral partners to account, why this can be important. And also, yeah, providing referral partners kind of like target profiles, so who you're actually wanting to meet. So within the context of something like a BNI, each week they ask, like, who do you want to meet this week in order to help you build out your network? And then you've got 30 to 40 people listening in and understanding and thinking about, oh my gosh, do I have that person in my network? Can I make that introduction and accelerate that business building process? So business building is often about, finding those key people that are going to make your operating model and business model work in the short term, but also in the long term. And then having enough kind of, what is that word? Contingency. So if one disappears, because often people's circumstances will change. So you need to have multiple people that you can kind of reach out to at any time to accelerate or continue that business development strategy that you're wanting to execute. How to grow exponentially through networking. So we take a look at the mathematics of it, understanding how you turn one connection into 10, into however many you kind of wish. That's pretty interesting. What can go wrong to derail your growth plans? So we'll be looking at how networking can go wrong, what can interfere with you growing exponentially, and how to leverage the tools, the likes of your Zoom, your LinkedIn, your online speed networking, your networking clubs. Yeah, at the moment, actually, I'm organising one for Queensland. So the entirety of the innovation industry has pretty much been invited to join us for a bit of speed networking. I haven't checked this morning, but kind of earlier in the week, we had 20 or 30 people registered. So hopefully by the end of today, we'll have about 40 people, which is what our target was for our first public launch of the online speed networking that we're going to be doing. So each of you guys will get an invite to participate in that. It's completely free, and you can access other kind of collaborators within the Queensland ecosystem. Excellent. Okay, let's create some doomsday scenarios whereby all of a sudden you're not allowed to go outside, right? You're not allowed to go and have coffee with anyone. You're not allowed to go and potentially go to any networking face-to-face meetings. Everything is digital, so you're not. So the imaginary scenarios might be you're placed under house arrest for politically motivated reasons. So just like if you're Aung San Suu Kyi at the moment, who I actually bumped into, strangely enough, at the Canberra airport. I didn't talk to her, by the way, but it was like, what the hell? That was crazy. So unfortunately, the junta in Myanmar is back in power, so she's back under house arrest. So we'll come up with a business development strategy for her, which actually, sounds a little bit insensitive. But anyway, let's persist. You move out to regional Australia because your partner wants to move there, or you want to move there for whatever reason you might have. Often it's a little bit more difficult to find high quality networking groups that you can kind of just tap into. I've had quite a few inquiries from Northern Territory and very remote parts of Queensland about how to get things off the ground, which is obviously a question that I didn't previously have the answer to, but now I've got a lot more understanding about how to do it. Or you go on a slow holiday to Ulaanbaatar, you want to move into a yurt and have that kind of lifestyle for a while, or you move to the Caribbean and you're on an island. So those are the imaginary scenarios that you could potentially paint. So all you have is a laptop, chargers and mobiles and reasonably fast internet. So long as the junta doesn't close down your internet, then you should be okay. And you've got unrestricted access to Zoom, speed networking, and Eventbrite. So some of the Middle Eastern countries you wouldn't be able to actually do this from. So don't go and move to, I don't know, Qatar or something, or one of the other states that you wouldn't be able to use some of the kind of IM tools, instant messaging tools, or video conferencing tools. So that's kind of the technology stack that we're going to potentially be leveraging. But you can be anywhere in the world effectively. And as long as you know who you're targeting and you've got kind of access to that target market through through the online networking channels, then you should be fine, right? You should be able to do pretty much the same as if you were down the road from them. So what that means is we're not allowed to have instant coffees, crumpets, or the unhealthy breakfasts that usually accompany these face-to-face meetings. And I do like face-to-face meetings, by the way, so I'm not kind of just disparaging them. They're pretty important. They're a good starting point. It's a good way of initially creating some interest and some connections with your first set of connections that you will then turn into hundreds of connections, or at least dozens of connections for your business. So the big question I'm asking in this presentation is, how are you going to build a business from solitude, from somewhere that isn't particularly aligned with where you would typically be to pursue this business? So, for example, my uncle, most of his business is in Singapore, which is an expensive place, but he lives in Manila, which is a not so expensive place, right? And so a lot of the conversations that he has are from his home office in Manila. And similarly, if you're in Australia and you're in Perth, or you're in another remote city from the rest of the country, then you should theoretically, well, actually practically speaking now, do business in all of those places, including, Christmas Island, which actually a Business Station does some work in Christmas Island as well, and also Tasmania as well. So that's cool. Okay, so now we're talking about cross-referral systems, right? So so you meet these people, then what do you do with them? How do you turn them into more contacts and more warm introductions, that kind of thing? So the question I want to pose is, why do we need a cross-referral system to deepen market penetration? Well, there's a whole variety of reasons, and we'll tease that out over this presentation. But practically speaking, often we won't meet the right people at the right time with the venture building process, right? So there'll be people that I know that you will need to talk to, and there'll be people that you know that I need to talk to, but we just don't happen to have met them, either in person or virtually, right? And yeah, that's the very next point. Sometimes the people we need to meet are activated within someone else's network. So maybe Maria or Amanda or Priscilla has just met the perfect person that I would be able to collaborate with really well. But, I just wasn't in Subiaco at that time, or I wasn't in Fortitude Valley at that moment in time. So we kind of miss each other. And what having a cross-referral system also does is generate a lot more strategic serendipity. So we've got a whole bunch of eyes and minds watching out for us and trying to help us develop business together, as opposed to us having to hit the pavement 6 a.m. every morning, get in the train, go out to Logan or wherever it is, and then go to one of those breakfasts, which, I don't recommend not doing that occasionally, but if you're doing it more than like a couple of times a month, then you're going to get quite tired quite quickly. And I often find people are like networked out. So let's look at what causes this and how to fix this networking out. So what I've noticed within the Australian context is very few people are very good at giving referrals. They often forget. And so, often within even networking groups who are educated and sometimes almost indoctrinated into giving referrals, it still doesn't happen in a predictable way. It's too infrequent. And often, if you only know someone's business a little bit, then the level of targeting that you can apply and make those introductions is pretty poor. So, you might get some introductions randomly to all the wrong people. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, but yeah, not very useful. So often what happens is our referral machines get jammed. And so what I'm trying to do here is provide like an instruction manual about how to unjam those referral machines so that they work as well as they need to. By the way, typically speaking, this kind of system is best applied. It's always even for consumer products, there's going to be some application. Probably consumer products like your wetsuits, you'd probably be targeting not the end customer necessarily, but instead you'd be targeting key partners, like people that will help you distribute the product more broadly, build out those referral distribution networks. Although that's not to say you don't meet with customers, it's just that probably wouldn't be your core focus. With other businesses, you can go direct to consumer or direct to business a lot quicker. And it just depends. So typically I try both. I like, oh my gosh, I've got all these potential referral partners or co-creation partners I can introduce a particular business to. But then sometimes I've actually got people that need that particular service at that particular time, or need that product at that particular time, just from conversations I might have. But I do it in a strategic way. I don't just willy-nilly do it. I do it in a focused way such that it becomes a win-win partnership. I think one of the mistakes people can make is that they just blindly refer, and that's fine. It still adds value, and it still creates a certain level of good karma. But if you do it strategically and you identify precise cross-referral partners, then your chances of getting positive results for yourself, not just for the two random people that you introduced, are all the more possible and all the more predictable. So all these things are happening in that networking context. So what happens is, without properly setting up your, referral model, it's very difficult to build a business. because you're kind of, you might build some elements of it and then it continually gets washed away. So there's no long-term impact of the work that you do if you don't have it properly calibrated. Another result, like another symptom that we see, is a huge amount of time kind of wasted. It's not necessarily wasted, but it's inefficiently spent networking and networking, always meeting the next person, hoping that something magic will happen, right? And so that's kind of a little bit similar to this idea of going on 1,000 first dates, but never, no value actually being created through the partnership. There's also a bit of a lack of accountability. So when people often say, oh yeah, I've got a client that could use your service, but they don't follow up. They don't make that introduction. So, why did they say that in the first place? It's almost valueless, right? It's not actually creating any value for both organizations. So that's often where it will fall down. And because of all of these factors, it's difficult to create a symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship with others in the small business community. One of the ways that small business works is that we are all working together synergistically to help provide, market intel, new insights, fresh thinking, but also tangible contacts that we can pass between each other in a predictable and structured way. Okay, so I thought I would introduce to you kind of like a system that helps me do this in a reasonably predictable way. So this is my referral system. So first of all, the first thing that I typically try to get people to realize is that there's a whole variety of different online networking and online speed networking opportunities in the WA market, the Queensland market. NT is just getting kicked off, I think. Maybe BNI is kind of coming back to the Northern Territorian market. But people in the NT can connect into the other states if they're not properly, they don't have enough networking opportunities. So District 32 is starting to make its way into the Northern Territory. Dante is taking part. I think Gillian's had a crack as well and had a good experience. You've got BX that covers WA, Queensland, and the US, and I think maybe some of the other bigger states like New South Wales and Victoria, and Expressway, which is my little baby, which covers the whole of Queensland, including the rural areas. And I'm not too precious about it being only Queenslanders, but that's what it was initially launched as 10 years ago. It's got about 700 members. Most of them are still in business to some degree, right? But you do get new ones coming in to replace the existing ones. And then next step is use these networking opportunities to fill up your two sides of your business model. I'll show you the business model, I think in the coming slides, but it's got two key pillars, right? On one side, it's got your key partners on the left-hand side of the canvas, and on the right-hand side, it's got your customer segments. So you can potentially, come into contact with either key partners or customers directly through online speed networking and online networking. But if not, you can come across, cross-referral partners, which will actually connect you with the people that they know that fit those criteria. So usually I have two CRMs. One is for customers or clients, and sometimes clients turn into key partners as well. Interestingly enough, if you come into contact with the right people, sometimes they can be both customer and key partner. And then you can split down the key partner lead funnel into different categories, either a cross-referral partner or a co-creation partner. So just got off the call with another Maria across in Gladstone. She's running the startup precinct there. She could potentially be, although we haven't really explored it, a cross-referral partner. And there's also others that run similar not-for-profit organizations like the Gold Coast Innovation Hub, Smart Precinct NQ, Space Cubed, a lot of opportunity to cross-refer between those kind of organizations and myself. So typically the way it works is we identify who is likely to have a lot of business for you, but also you've got a lot of business for them. So the classic one is builders and architects, right? They both work on the same projects. Same with accountants and bookkeepers, or web designers and web developers. Yeah, in our industry, which is like innovation and advisory industry, it's often other advisors, right, of different kinds, particularly those relating to strategy for myself, right? So those that understand how important strategy is and having a structured approach to building that business out. So yeah, do have a think. So that's part of your homework. Who are your cross-referral partners? Who do you come into contact with? A lot of their clients, and they come into contact with a lot of your clients, and then you can switch them across. And I guess that's an exercise that is really heavily promoted within BX. They actually get people who meet for the first time to think about who that they could potentially introduce a given new contact to. So yeah, it is really important, I think, to give these networking, these companies a go and learn from them about how all of this works. Because I'm going to provide you quite a comprehensive system here, but you need to experience it, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be theory. But every time that you go to one of these things, like refer back to these notes and go, that's interesting. Maybe this person is not a referral partner. Maybe this person is a referral partner, cross-referral partner, right? So it's always worthwhile. The more experience you get, the richer your understanding and higher fidelity, your understanding of how all of this needs to work. Number 4, okay, so you identify someone cool. So be they a client or a key partner, and you work really well together. And then sometimes what you'll do is you'll upgrade your collaboration to a recurring one, where you catch up either weekly, fortnightly, monthly. It's a bit of a stretch if you do it any more than monthly. It doesn't need to be for long. Sometimes it's just a matter of updating people on stuff. But effectively what this does is it replicates. So within the context of a large business, naturally what happens is you're supposed to be, at least, in the same office, and there's supposed to be a kitchen or a water cooler. And then naturally you'll have these ad hoc conversations with people at the water cooler. Yeah, so often, because of all this work from home stuff, often the large corporates are now introducing online speed networking between their employees to recreate that culture. So culture is kind of, in a certain respect, created from recurring interactions between staff, right? For better or for worse. But if you take this component out of the running of a business, then the culture dies. So that's why they're trying to replace it with online networking of some sort to maintain it, while still kind of having that level of flexibility, for people wanting to work remotely or from home. And so another opportunity is that you kind of fill each other's cups or hoppers up every time that you meet. So you might do a consulting session, or you might do just a general catch up of some other sort, particularly if you're just purely referral partners, and then you fill each other's hoppers up with new possibilities and opportunities, and then you actually follow through and you make those introductions. So I'll explain how that works as well. So step 5 is to actually agree upon how many cross referrals you're going to make per week, per month, however often. Actually make it, because cross referrals are their own currency, right? So in this case, I've got Pokemon cards. They're not necessarily like Pokemon cards, but they kind of are. So usually you'd go 1 for 1. So in this case, we might say, okay, let's make 2 warm introductions every week in both directions. And what ends up happening is that's hugely beneficial. That results in quite a bit of business growth for both individuals partaking in this trade or swap. And it means that, yeah, because you've already had these interactions that with someone that the other person needs to talk to. But the value is only realized when you actually go and do something with them, right? Or the other person who you introduce, the two people that you connect actually go and do something tangible. And that could be more referral swapping, but often it will be, okay, let's do a project, or let's one person consult to the other, or whatever the case may be. But that's how it should work, but ends up not happening as much as it should. Excellent. Yeah, if there are any questions as well, because we're covering a lot of detail, like it took me quite a while to actually come up with all of this, like a lot of kind of trial and error over many meetings. Yeah, but once it starts working, it really kicks off. I can tell you that. Okay, this is the most difficult part now. Step 6. So sometimes you'll need to take your key partners and clients through almost like an enablement process, like a referral enablement process, because they might be tentative to do it, or they might not know what to communicate, or they might not know when or how or why, or any question. So typically I provide some marketing collateral, like a flyer of some sort. Equally, you could provide a website that someone could be directed to. You provide a really detailed, as detailed as you want actually, persona of the ideal customer referral. Like you do it for yourself, but you also provide it to your partners so that they can identify people for you. So I can give you an example. I keep adding to it as I realize more and more. Let's see if I can find it here. It might be here. Let's just just go and open my one. Okay, here we go. I think I filed it away just to clear my desktop. So ideal customer referral for me is either WA, Queensland, or Northern Territory. They can be firmographically, which is like what kind of company. It doesn't really matter the industry. Solopreneur to 20 staff. Preference for professional services, although I've done a variety of other ones as well. It's just because my model is most similar to a professional services model, then I can provide even deeper insights, like really granular insights that someone that is starting a professional services organization would really benefit from. Mature founders, so not those teenagers building apps, although I will be talking to the teenagers building apps, doing a presentation to some of the schools in Gladstone soon, so that should be interesting, and a variety of other things that you can pick up on. So I have an idea and business model, and I can imagine that working, and yeah, a variety of other characteristics. They haven't yet done their business modeling work or visual strategy canvas. I've got a deep and broad network for the individual, so I can bring not just strategy and capability, but also network. Maybe they haven't optimized their partnership strategy yet, and they're at a stage of early revenue growth. So they've made a few sales. They don't know how to take it too much further. This is a nice to have though. I can operate pre-revenue as well. And then got a bit of a psychographic makeup, which is like how they think and their psychology, and also how they behave. So I notice and watch what they do, like in order to make this whole system work. So the ideal person would be active in networking circles, competent cross-referral partner, good at business development, coachable, like pretty much a dream kind of individual. And then I also provide people a bit of an understanding of the kind of network that I've currently got activated within my circles. So it's a pretty specific, and yeah, I mean, I can provide that as an example to you guys, just so that you can go through and think about, your customer segments in a little bit more fidelity, breaking it down into geographic, firmographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral elements. Calendly links. So make it easy to book time with you. Provide your Calendly links to your referral partners. Show them how to find your ideal customer within LinkedIn, because they might have 20 or 30 people that are just ripe to be picked and to be introduced and, collaborations to commence. So what I'll often do is I will often open LinkedIn and just show people really quickly, Maria, that's not what I was talking to earlier, but one of my keywords is founder, right? So someone that's just recently founded a business, and then do a people search, and then do quickly say Queensland. Oh no, go Perth, because I know more of the people there that I've come into contact face to face with more of those people. And then first connections. And then I go through and estimate how hot a particular person is, because I've met this person once. Some of them I haven't met ever. Sometimes you bump into people over and over again. So Scott is an example of someone that you come into contact with on an ongoing basis, because he runs the morning startup across in Perth. And then you've got Brendan White, he was at university, so he's been in touch. I should organize a catch up with him. And yeah, you just go through and look, I got like 48 pages just of founders. But whatever, sometimes you'll try and find accountants, and there'll be dozens or if not hundreds of those that I've met over the past. They can be kind of connected into my network as well. And that's just Perth. So 58 just in Perth. So yeah, whatever you're kind of looking for, I would typically do my own search and see if there are people that you should know and you should be introduced to. And then you need to articulate what the process flow is. So how you want to receive those referrals. Typically, I receive them as bookings, like Calendly bookings, and then obviously meet online, occasionally in person as well, just depending on where they are. Perth is a bit of a long and thin city. So sometimes it's difficult if I'm in the western suburbs, it's very difficult to get to someone in the hills, or, even the CBD takes quite a while to get to. So sometimes we'll just jump on a call. And then do they have the ability to kind of communicate on your behalf to say, look, this guy is pretty good at business models and all that kind of stuff. I've just noticed that I don't have a business model canvas in here. So let me just show you a quick business model canvas before we talk about it too much out of context. So a business model canvas is recommended to do before you jump in and start building network, because what it will require you to do is ask about who your key partners are, what their roles are, how you add value to each other, a variety of other things. And so I've got a lot of experience in looking at the makeup of people's key partner square and making sure that it's strong enough for them to actually build a business on top of. Same with the customer segments. You get a lot more granular, a lot more specific, and hence avoid a lot of problems and issues of choosing the wrong customer segments and marketing to the wrong people or approaching the wrong people. So yeah, all my job is to encourage founders to fill these kind of canvases in and then review them together with the founder. And in that way, we co-create the strategy moving forward. And then I look at these squares and make sure that, if there's someone in my network that corresponds to either the key partner or the customer segment square, then an introduction is made. And so that accelerates their go-to-market efforts quite considerably. And of course, over the last couple of years, I've probably met, hundreds, if not into the low thousands of people. So I've got a lot of contacts to share. Okay, so then the final part of the enablement process is explaining how to pre-sell the next meeting, why you would. And so people that are naturally good at communicating or naturally good at business development, you don't need to tell them anything, they just do it, you know. But for others, it's much more of a case of just showing them a few bits and pieces to help them realize what needs to be done. And then the seventh step, which is the final step, is to create almost like a spreadsheet where you're tracking the referrals as they pass between different individuals, you know, the cross-referral partners. And then just trying to make people accountable, not wield too much, don't put them under too much pressure, because there could be a really good reason why they're not referring, but just, you know, make sure that they realize that these have value, and it would be great to have, you know, reciprocation. Yeah, so and sometimes you'll actually organize specific meetings just to pass like 5 or 10 cross referrals between each other. So we'll discuss that in the coming slides. And so, yeah, so the cross referral will happen, then a booking will occur, like in someone's calendar, between the referral partner and the person being referred. And then, yeah, you'll have a discovery meeting for about at least 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they go longer because there's a lot more to do. You know, there's a lot more opportunity to kind of realize through that partnership. And yeah, it's only successful if the actual referral happens. And what ends up happening is that, through this introduction, value is kind of accumulated in the organization receiving the referral. So if Maria sent me 3 referrals that were really good, then I would potentially have 3 new clients, and some of them might be ongoing. And that means that the value is built into my organization. And the same thing would happen if I did it the reverse direction. So actually sent it back to Maria, then you get this accumulation of value. And that's actually a really important part of the venture building process, right? The business building process. Alrighty, so key points, just key things to consider. So of the referral system. So it kind of replaces water cooler chat. It's important to get to know your cross-referral partner's business really, really well, so you can actually articulate what they do. If you can't, then it's going to be quite difficult. It also means that you stay at the top of mind for a chosen few to few dozen cross-referral partners across your markets and service areas. So often what happens is that if you meet too many people, you start to forget people, and the people that you meet more recently replace those old ones. And then it's almost like nothing is retained, right? There's no value that's retained within your organization as a result, because it's just like a revolving door. So try not to do that. Try to find high quality cross-referral people, partners, and work really deeply with them and extract all the value out of each other as much as possible, which sounds quite exploitative, but actually it's very synergistic, right? And sometimes, yeah, you can embed this within your professional services calls. So you can really, you know, get your consulting work done, make sure that, you know, deliver what you say you're going to deliver, but then also have 10 minutes at the end to think about, like, who are we going to cross-refer this week or this month? It's really quite an important element of it. Okay, so yeah, this is just one of the last slides now, but this goes into a lot of detail. So say that sometimes what you might want to do is actually allocate an entire hour of going through and researching all of the various people that you could send another person's way. And so, for example, for Priscilla or Maria, I don't know your businesses that well, but it could be as high as 20 or 30 people that I could potentially send your way to make your lives easier and to make your journey a lot quicker. Of course, I would need to get to know you and your business, just to understand where you're at and make sure that what you're doing makes sense to me as well, because I don't like to just blindly introduce. You need to make sure that you guys understand what you're doing and have something of value that I can see working when the introduction happens. Sometimes that's just a matter of making some adjustments. Other times, some people are trying to do something that I would imagine to be impossible. In which case, I would possibly not necessarily want to make too many introductions. But once we establish that there is a solid business model behind what you're doing and the product is pretty cool, then yeah, obviously it's really quite important to start making those introductions. So with a hackathon, you kind of set the rules up, yeah, so just explain the structure of the event. So it might be an hour, and then I might open one of these spreadsheets that you saw in the previous slides, and I've got a tab that says Priscilla or Maria, and then I go, okay, here are 5 or 6 people that I can potentially introduce to you. Which ones do you think you want to meet at this moment in time? And then Maria and Priscilla would look at those and go, no, this person is X, that person is Y. Oh, that person. Okay, this person, and this person, and this person, and this person. Okay, so we've got 4 people, and then the other partner does the same, but for their business. And then you end up with 4 that can go each way as a result of that hours. And I mean, yeah, sometimes you can get through dozens, actually, just depending upon how deep your potential pool of referrals is and how competent the 2 participants are. Yeah, then you agree the terms. So is it 1 for 1? Yeah, are we going for a dozen each way? Is there any financial side to it? Is there a commercial agreement of any kind? And then, yeah, you just keep track of the referrals as they pass back and forward. Hopefully, if you've agreed 1-to-1, a near equal number is going each way. So you're both building each other up at roughly the same rate. Your partner is at least attempting to meet referrals. So sometimes you just can't get people together, can't nail someone down to actually have a meeting. That's fine, at least you tried. So what you don't want to do is send a whole bunch of referrals one way and then this person is just not meeting any of them. And that makes you look like an idiot as the referrer. So you have to make sure that that doesn't happen. You also receive feedback on how the referral meeting went, whether the opportunity is going to flow as a result of these 2 new people meeting. And I've definitely received positive feedback when it's worked very well. Occasionally it doesn't, just because misalign things a little bit, but got to give these things a crack. And then make sure that more continue to flow each way. So once the tap is on, you make sure that it continues to gush. So it's pretty important. And also diagnose issues with if the referrals aren't free flowing, right? So diagnose why that might be the case. Maybe there's not, one of the partners doesn't have enough information. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they don't have your Calendly link or whatever. But get to the bottom of it and understand how to make sure that they're fully prepared to be able to, go out there and help you build your business, and you do the same for them. And yeah, sometimes you'll need to revisit how it all works and when it kind of makes sense and how to do it in a way that's kind of socially prudent. Not make it feel salesy. If it feels salesy at all, people are really like, oh, geez, this doesn't feel right. So we have to make sure that we're making it feel good as opposed to creepy, because the last thing you want to do is creep an existing client or partner or connection out as a result of making these referrals. Yeah, some people are just not open to it as well. Some people are a little bit closed-minded. So if you introduce them to someone that's doing something similar, they'll be like feeling a bit threatened. So you do sometimes you'll take a step back and ask them, do you want to be introduced to this particular person at this particular time? So the result is you turn one client or key partner into many, many more in accordance with this formula, which we're not going to go through because that's back to, high school mathematics. I'm sure you guys can remember all of these exponential formulas and probably haven't needed to use them too much in the recent past. So yeah, one client or key partner can turn into 2 to 4 to 8, and then that's where your growth comes from. And what this system means is you're fully leveraging your network of trusted partners, people that you see as valuable and you see as trustworthy. But the proviso for getting this exponential growth is recurring client accounts. So if you're losing as many clients as you're gaining, then obviously you're not going to get this exponential equation playing out. Alrighty, are there any questions before we wrap? I've been talking a lot, hopefully not overloading you with information. You can always go back and rewatch the video if you so wish. Any questions on that, or does it make more or less sense? Alrighty. Well, anyway, type your questions if you have any. So the only thing else that I would say, and this is particularly for people in Queensland, is that there is an online speed networking event coming up, and you guys are all invited. And all you need to do is register there, and we'll upload you into the system, and you can experience what it's like to operate at the very top of this funnel, starting to interact with new people without needing to go outside and go to those networking functions. So do share your questions or comments in the chat if you do have them. So just to share with you a few opportunities to work together. Okay, no worries, Maria. Yeah, there's a lot in there. Like, it's quite a deep topic, and there's a lot of nuances. And so if you're a little bit bamboozled, then I think that's perfectly normal. And maybe I should have had this as a 2-hour session because there's so much like small detail, but effectively what I want to do with the presentation is have almost like a playbook that you can go back to and go, it's an interesting point. And you can go back, okay, well, maybe I should make a different adjustment. I mean, if you've been in business for like 5 or 10 years, or Gillian's been in business for like 22 years or so, this is just refreshing, but making it relevant to the online world. We've got a raised hand from BT. How are you going, BT? Got a specific question for me? Just allowed you to unmute if you want to let us know what it is. Nope. Okay, or maybe just type it in there. I just wanted to wrap because I've got another meeting coming up. Ways of working with me, right? Or collaborating with me. Obviously, you can join the speed networking. You can work with me and have your strategy canvases reviewed, be that your business model canvas or some of the other ones like value proposition or operating model canvas. That'll help you accelerate the maturity of your venture building process. Of course, there are always more workshops and webinars. Got one coming up on Monday or Tuesday on the 55 most successful business models. So we'll be running through some of the 55. I don't think we're going to be able to cover 55 in 1 hour. One per minute, I think, is pushing it. And then, for some of my graduates that go through the digital solutions program, which makes the advisory piece almost free, continue on, and we establish cross-referral partnerships and grow together. So that's another way of working together with me to help progress and grow. Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your contributions. I recognize it's a pretty advanced session. Hopefully there's some new insights for you guys that have been in business for quite some time, and hopefully I haven't blown too many people's minds with just the level of detail or complexity that business can have, that we do need to work through as part of that business building process. And that's one of the reasons why it can take a few years to actually get a business off the ground, is that there are a lot of variables, and we just need to be very patient and work through them systematically in order to have all the moving parts of the business come together in the right way. Yeah, so excellent. Alrighty, guys, I gotta go. Thanks so much for coming, and yeah, hopefully we'll come into contact with one another at some time in the future. And yeah, so any questions, I'm always available. I'll send you the details and my contact details through email. Thanks, Gillian. Okay, have a great one. Have a great lunch, and we'll speak soon. Bye for now.